All right, what is up, everybody? So, Shell Scout 0013 here, reporting in with an interview with Chris Vasquez. Wait, is that right?
Velazquez, yeah, close
Velasquez.
enough.
Yes, okay. And he took the Wookiee Defender Force, and he is the Wookiee extraordinaire, definitely. And he is in the Discord, so if you ever have questions about any of that, he's chiming in a lot, so that's really awesome to see. And yeah, today we're just gonna talk about Crucible and the Wookiee Defender Force and how an amazing pilot can use this in competitive tournaments and in a competitive scene. So yeah, we'd like to make it meta and see how far it can go. But yeah, we'll let Kylar kind of introduce himself, and we'll talk about Crucible, and I'll ask him a few questions. So what's up, man?
Hello, hello.
Yeah, so how's it going over there in what Jacksonville, right?
That's right.
Nice.
Jacksonville, Florida. What part of the Florida Man team?
Yeah, you know all the best players are from Florida, but
Yeah, Florida is getting stronger every month. Really.
yeah, I'm loving it, and I'm loving to see the fact that Crucible was held in Orlando and Florida, and we've actually had a really good like big tournament here instead of having to travel all the way up to like Northeast or LVO or anything like that. So, but yeah, so I'll go ahead and kind of get into it. So, if you want, you could tell us a little bit about us, or tell us a little bit about yourself and your playstyle and how you got into Star Wars Legion.
Yeah. So I started Star Wars Legion super casually because I am a collector. I collect lightsabers and like memorabilia and stuff like that. And I just looked at it as just another thing to start collecting. And I thought, hey, maybe this is going to be a fun way to pass some time. I like D&D and miniatures and such, so I thought, hey, why not, right? And I played it casually for quite some time before pulling the you know pulling the pin and saying, hey, let me try this competitively. Um, and I've been playing competitively pretty much since the start of this year. So as a competitive player, I'm fairly new, but as a player, I've had some experience lasting a lot longer than that, or a little bit longer than that, I should say. Um, and yeah, so what got me into Legion is really just a passion for Star Wars in general, as a and as a collector and stuff. So yeah, and also I have always really wanted to play a war game, but like I looked at like Warhammer and all these other games, and I just was like the buy-in was too high, and I was a little bit too nervous to do it, and so because it's Star Wars, it was in my comfort zone.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
right there with you. I tried to when I was like 13 dabble in the Lord of the Rings miniature game and was very unfamiliar with it. Never really got to play, and then I saw that Star Wars had it in like 2019, 2020, and I was like, "Whoa, this is awesome!" So I'm right there
yeah,
with you. Anything Star Wars is just absolutely awesome.
yeah. It's my favorite franchise, pastime. So I love talking about the game, and I love talking about competitive now too, especially this year, getting so heavy into it and meeting some amazing people. Jacksonville is home for Austin Miller, so I mean everybody should know who that guy is. He's an amazing player, great guy. He runs the Jacksonville tournaments. Shout out to him. There's one in November, for championship, being run by Austin Miller. So
Oh wow.
people could check that out if they want to make it to Jacksonville and meet everybody.
Yeah, I might actually have to do that
Yeah.
myself. I'm in Tallahassee, so I can. That's like a 2 hour drive for
Yeah.
me.
Two, a little more than two, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. Yeah, that'd be awesome to. So you're gonna be playing on that one as well, right?
Yep, sure will. And I'm not 100%, but pretty likely gonna play Wookiees.
As you should. I mean, you
Yeah,
went you went 3-0 at Crucible.
I
Um,
absolutely did. Yeah, day one, Friday Heat. I was 3-0, and I was featured on stream game two. That was the nail biter game of the day. The other two matches were super decided. Um, I, I had after three games. I had 2,064 kill points. I was pretty much slaughtering, as Wookiees do. Uh, And yeah, it was a bloodbath. Every single game was just, models, every activation models getting deleted, and it's a great aggressive list for aggressive players. So if you like to, press the W key and see things, get peeled off the board, it's great for that. Um, and so that's sort of what drew me to the Wookiee Defenders list initially. I think was just the aggression that it brings, and I had typically been playing a lot more passive lists. So this one I thought like, hey, let's see what happens if I'm going for the throat.
And you did really well with it. To me,
Yeah, thank
it
you.
it boggles my mind that you might lose a Wookiee here and there, but that's like 6 wounds that they had to deal in order for you to lose like 2 Wookiees, and then you still have so many other units. Um,
Yeah.
does it feel
Yeah,
weird?
running tenacity on them is a big deal. I mean, if you have just your unit leader left, you have red, black, black, pierce one, or with lethal, right? Duelist, similar, right? So duelist will give you the pierce. So your melee attacks are on red saves. Just your unit leader is sometimes clearing a full unit almost, right? It's 3 models very oftentimes. I just have a unit leader left. I'm killing 3 stormtroopers. It's incredible, like, and it almost feels wrong because like you feel like you're losing until they get into melee, and then it just steamrolls the other direction.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's really nice to see because it's like you might feel demoralized for a little bit, but then as soon as you get them embedded into your enemy lines, it's like they just take over.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
go.
And because it's got Yoda and Chewbacca, you do have great objective play. My second match was one where that was the key. I knew that the only way that I was going to beat his list was to play objectives, and I banned pretty heavy for it. There were some crazy white saves in that match, on both of our parts, and Chewbacca saving three off of 3 crits at the very end of the game was just really it felt very good. But kudos to my player. He was a great sport, and we both had great roles, and it just came down to kill points in that match. Yeah,
Yeah, that was a very fun game to watch, and the fact that Chewie just lasted so long was like, oh
yeah.
my god, that's those white dice. They really had you in favor on them.
Yeah, his bike saved a Pierce hit because it rolled like his bike rolled a bunch of blocks. Then his boss rolled a bunch of blocks against Chewbacca's first melee, and and then finally I hid Chewbacca behind the rock, and I was just like praying, and he got 3 crits, and then I rolled 3 blocks, and I mean it was just back and forth. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's what makes this game so awesome is those
Yeah.
those insane dice rolls.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Even Jordan, the tournament organizer, like you might hear him in the background. He says, "You guys, white dice is insane." Like he was watching, and even as a TO, I mean, he couldn't help but just like smile and just appreciate that the game was just really wild. But I wish almost people could have seen my first or my third game, because that was really the aggression tactic in action. Again, scoring I round one, I got 799 kill points. It was a table. Kudos to my player for not tilting or anything. He's an amazing sport about it. And then in round three, I played Mike Cirillo, who wound up getting second in the tournament after I dropped, and he had 2 naked B1s left at the end of the match. Yeah, yeah, he ran into the corner and denied me those kill points. But no, kudos to him. I mean, he was an amazing sport and player, and that's why when I saw that, if I was very hesitant to see if I could play on the Sunday day. I knew I needed to get back to Jacksonville, and I was trying to decide it. But when I saw that if I dropped, he would get into the top cut for the day. Um, he was such a great sport about it, and it made it easy to choose to give him the spot, so that I needed to get back to Jacksonville. So, you know, it worked out, I think, and he got second place, which is amazing.
yeah. I was gonna say that should make you feel even better because like that. I mean, that
Yeah,
could have been you, but the fact that you gave it up to him, just the sportsmanship of this whole entire
and
like
he
weekend.
got his invite to Worlds. So congrats to him.
It's
Yeah,
awesome. Holy crap,
yeah.
man. Yeah, everything seems really cool. Now, what made you want to play the Wookiee Defender Force in the first place?
Um, I mean, honestly, Yoda is really the reason why I play Gar. And know that there's probably a lot of players and people who play Gar who can relate that Wookiees are expensive and they don't really fit into a lot of armies, especially if you want to play them in a thematic list like with Yoda. He's expensive, they're expensive. The problem is the tax on core. Wookiee Defender solves that problem though. You get to play your Wookiees as core. So when I saw that, I knew immediately that this was something that I needed to try. I started brewing some lists. Shout out to JJ Woods, who helps. He plays in Tampa as well at Jordan's events, and I usually chat with him about it. I kind of spitballed some ideas with him. He gave me a little bit of insight and stuff, and so I just started testing some of the lists that he said were that he liked, and some other of my friends also said that they would like. After a couple rounds of testing, I realized very quickly that Fluttercrafts are pretty darn good with the new upgrade. They can stay beyond range 4 and never get shot and engage at range 3 at just doing donuts over and over, or you can just use them as the threat of saying, yeah, I've got 2 things that are going to zoom across the board faster than anything else and drop a bomb, or something like that. So it makes objective play against lists that 799 was my bid, which was not high, but I knew that Yoda is good at just about everything. And then if I do play an 800 point list, the only thing that my opponent doesn't want to see, in the initial thing is, I mean, you're playing against Yoda, right? You don't want to see recover, you don't want to see hostage, and you don't want to see bombing run, right? And
Yeah, those are
of
the
course, I
worst
play all
things to play
3,
against. Yeah.
and I play all 3, right? It makes my opponent have some tough decisions to make, and I think that that's a great strategy in and of itself. So I realized that with Wookiee Defenders, I was 100% playing Yoda. There was no way I was going to be playing without him. I want his command cards and I want his objective play. So yeah, those were the 2 reasons why when I saw the Wookiee, it was the fact that I didn't have to play regular core and the objective play with Yoda. Like it was a no brainer for me.
It also makes it a lot more thematic anyway. Like it looks better on the table to just see all those Wookiees and the Fluttercraft and Yoda.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm a little sad that my ARC troopers didn't get to shine in game 2. They got absolutely murked by the blast rocket Mandos.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't save at all. It was really sad. He rolled really
Yeah.
good, and then I rolled really bad, and they died in 1 activation. I don't even know if I think they shot once. Like they shot on round 1, and then that was it. It was pretty bad. But that's actually another thing that I think is what sets my list apart is that the 1 ARC Trooper was an MVP in my first and my third games. It's a Special Forces token, which is what your Wookiees are. You have great order control, so you can basically delay them for very late in the round on your 2 and 3 pip turns. They're a fantastic target for your Yoda 2 pip, giving them relentless. Move, get 2 aims and shoot. Range 2, big pool, pretty good. Guidance them, shoot again. you know, yeah. They're so the arcs are super key. And they also are surprisingly good in recover the supplies. Because of the scout 2 that they natively have. So they make a fantastic target to you have a 5 health red save that can grab a box and you can just guidance them away into a corner, and then they can still participate in the in the sniping and things like that. So um I don't think that I would ever. I mean, I have played the 6 melee Wookiees version of the list, but it's really hard to put away the ARC Trooper.
Yeah,
They're so good.
I was gonna say that range that they have kind of helps a little bit more for those Wookiees, since the Wookiees are usually range 1 to 2, maybe 1 to 3 with the bowcaster, but that range 1 to
Yep.
5, and then the double dice at range 3, or sorry, range 2 is just really good on
Yeah.
them as well.
Yeah. There's some really threatening things that you can do with the guidance too. If you are willing to go with them first in a position where you can double advance into range 2 with 2 aims and attack, knowing that you're going to flip your Yoda token and withdraw them back out, and then you still get another good shot on them, but you're pulling them back. So they'll get 2 ranged range 2 attacks on a turn, like back to back. But you are pulling them at that maximum range 2 off the Relentless, and that is scary. And on the receiving end, your opponent just feels like you're cheating. They like it does. It feels like you're cheating. You're like, wow, ARC troopers with the Relentless. That's not fair.
Yeah, a yo-yo move like that just seems insane. Like throwing it out and bringing it back in, and then you get to do the same thing at like 2 more turns from now or 3 more turns from now, depending on how you cycle through.
Yeah,
Um,
I set them. I set them just at exactly range 3 on the 3-pip, um, and then knowing that I can double move to get range 2 with Relentless, and then I have the 2 aims to hit, and then I can pull them back immediately on the following turn, and it hits quite hard.
yeah, I was gonna ask
And
about your like your card choice and like how you decided
mhm.
to go about maneuvering your units for your card plays. I didn't know if you had any insight as to like some good plays on that.
Yeah. So matchup dependent, I would say. Obviously, if you're playing against Bounty, I'm always playing different. Against my first opponent, he was playing double Bounty, Cad Bane plus Din Djarin. Very unique list, Empire list. Um, so setting Bounty on Yoda Chewbacca right off the bat, like you know that you need to play a little different. You don't want to give up Bounty. Um, and he had a really difficult opening flop. He knew to not play Recover the Supplies against Yoda, so he banned that. I banned Key Positions, and he was left with a choice: Bombing Run, and he had no speeders in his list. So it was Bombing Run or Hostage. He opted to try Hostage, um, and yeah, and the table layout as well. I always like to tell people, like, just tr- be very diligent, be very careful early on to figure out your layout and your terrain and what you're going to call things. Because that was a big reason why I think I did so well in the first game, because we talked about terrain, we hammered it down. I knew what I could climb over, what I couldn't, at various different heights. And yeah, that was what allowed me to get my hostage into safety on the first turn. So um, I'm a big fan of Yoda's 1-pip on turn 1. Um, I played Yoda's 1-pip on turn 1 in all 3 of my games um, at Crucible, um, because I played Recover twice and Hostage once, and giving a unit 2 extra actions on those specific objectives is just brutal. And so that's something that I think people are aware of, but maybe they don't really consider it as often anymore, because they feel that Yoda 3-pip 3-2-1 3-2-1. Most people think it's like, the very easy macro. But one 1-3-2 and repeat is actually also quite good.
I was actually wondering, what the best or what you think the best, order would be, and the fact that getting those 2 extra guidance actions on either the hostage unit, the recover unit, or the bombing unit, or whatever it is. Going with that first, I feel like maybe throws a lot of people off because they're probably expecting that 3-pip to go first. So
Yeah, and actually, there were a few instances where that um well, I would say few. I'd say one in particular in my third game, where being able to do that set the tone of the game. And Mike realized that he needed to be very aggressive with his Asajj. He did not. I will be the first person to admit he did not get lucky. He was very unlucky, and I think I got a little lucky. And he lost his Asajj on the second round because of some really bad rolls um on his attack. I would say not really really bad, but like definitely subpar. And then when he when he uses Makashi and says, "All right, 5 Pierce 1 coming into Yoda," and Yoda says, "All right, I'll take 1," it sets the tone of the rest of the game.
hmm
So and yeah, and then his Magna Guards did not show up. I think they were on coffee break. Uh, they charged a Wookiee and did 1 wound.
oh, that's the worst. And they're so expensive just to fail like that too.
Yeah, on one of his charges, yeah, he did 1 wound to a Wookiee off of a Magna charge. It was pretty tragic. But that's dice, and kudos to him to not tilt and not like not getting a bad attitude about it. And he's a great guy. So, but yeah, the one I capitalize on it. That's the other thing about dice game. If you see an opportunity, oh, there's a bad roll happening here, opens up a window of opportunity, and I pushed. I mean, I full sent it, and that's why Asajj died. Went very hyper aggro. I was like, this is my opportunity. These Wookiees were supposed to be dead. They're not dead. All right, I'm gonna full send it. Um, and that's the thing I think that a lot of Yoda players will appreciate is that if you're playing Yoda, you need to be able to determine your victory condition, because your army is expensive. So you have to be more than the other opponent. You're not doing trades. You're doing snowball. Like that's the best way to win with Yoda is like find that opportunity. This is my path to victory and snowball that.
Yeah, I was often wondering, and which would bring me to my next question about like how do you prepare for lists that have 10 plus acts with just an 8 act
Hmm.
list, and that's also mostly a lot of white saves and like Yoda. Yeah, he's like a big powerhouse
Hmm.
in itself, but yeah, how do you feel like you are supposed to take on such high activation lists with a low one like that? And you mentioned snowball, but if you want
Yeah.
to keep elaborating.
Yep. I definitely have in all of my games I played against a 10 activation list. So it was first, second, and third round. The Empire 10 activations, again, sometimes it is going to be a little bit of a nuisance. I think as a Republic player, a lot of us are used to fire supporting. So I'm already kind of used to being on like a 9 activation Anakin list where I'm gonna fire support. So I'm very much used to being down activations. I think the big key is that your activations with Wookiees tend to last a little longer, and so you can, by the time you finally start to lose activations, you're probably equalizing. And the things that are left over, even when they're small, like I mentioned earlier, one unit leader is still red, black, black, pierce. Like, and if they're in melee, they're doing that's clearing red units out in the other thing is that with the pass, so I didn't have to play in a competitive scene before the pass, so I've always known about, like, it's always been there for me. um I think knowing when to pass is more of an is like an art at this point. um i tend to I tend to babysit my pass, though. um I think I see a lot of people, they'll just do turn one pass. I like to set myself up with some tokens or set myself up where the pass comes after an awkward draw from my opponent. Like, you got an awkward draw, great. You didn't do anything. Now I'm gonna not do anything, and then I'm gonna keep the act parity. Um, so burning it early, I think, can be a misplay. So I think that it's also just a Gar thing. You get I think I think a lot of people just get used to playing 8 activations and just knowing that you're not going to last first all that often.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things with like the 8 act list. Like even if you do pass, there's still a chance that you're still not going last, and you've got to prepare for everything they're bringing at you.
Hmm.
And even like trying to take over the objectives, making sure that you can somehow secure an objective while they're still going. Um, and yeah, I'm trying to think about like another little way of trying to use that pass, but yeah, I've never thought about letting them make that mistake and then passing. Usually, I try to just like if I've gone with the most important units, then I can try to take a pass. But um, I'm I'm always curious as to how what people think about using their passes and if they can or not.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes you run the risk of not keeping it. In the sense of like, if they lose a unit, and you maybe started the round with the ability to pass, and then you kill an activation, and now you have act parity, you can't use the pass now. um but it would have been nice to have used it in that instance, but if I'm taking models off the board, I don't think I'm having the time to complain. So I'm usually pretty happy to say, okay, I don't have a pass anymore. That means I'm doing something right. um eight activations is the minimum, I think, for Gar. absolutely. And in some senses, I think 9 is the max. It's an expensive force. So really, you just have to get used to like if you're really comfortable in 9, just start playing 9 without a pass, and you'll know how it feels to play 8. Yeah, and you can just kind of get used to that. But for sure, I think that the big deal too is that the my specific list with the Wookiee defenders does not use fire support, so the 8 is a strong 8. You're always getting your 8. And I think that that might be a little bit different for some Gar players too. Is that they think like, oh, eight's too low because they're used to fire supporting once, sometimes twice in a round, and they don't want to see their opponent play solitaire for 4 rounds. But that's not so much of a problem when every single one of your 8 is doing something, and well, come to think of it,
You might
yeah,
even
they all have incredible engagement because of charge or relentless or some of those things. So you're yeah, I think that in particular with the Wookiees, there's not really a lot that your opponent is going to be able to do to stop you from engaging.
yeah, because it almost feels like you get three actions almost with that entire thing because Yoda with guidance, and then you have charge on the Wookiees, and then you have a compulse move with the Fluttercrafts. So it's almost kind of like a lot of
Yep.
them get the three actions that you get to kind of utilize instead of two.
Yep.
Um,
And the ARC troopers have incredible poke and range, and on relentless turns, they're just again they just do that very very effective combo. If and I don't want to steer people wrong. I didn't always two pip to give them the range 2 shot. I mean, like obviously keep them at range 3 if it makes sense. There's been a couple game in my third game in particular. They were holding a box, for instance, right? Like I'm not going to risk them. I'm going to keep them max range 3 the whole game. But having the threat of saying, yeah, I'm going to advance into you and roll 10 dice with sharpshooter and double aims and lethal, that's a threat enough, you know?
yeah, that would deter almost anybody of wanting to move in close too quick.
Yeah.
Another.
And of course, if they move in too close, then your Wookiees are charging. So yeah, don't forget them.
Oh yeah, this list is quite menacing, and it. So I was also reading on the Fifth Trooper that forced guidance on Yoda. That's something I like personally because
Mhm.
I feel like Yoda is a great support piece and can kind of stay in the back and just do a lot for your army. And if you have a good army, he can just make that even better. And uh, having Yoda in the back a little bit and having force guidance on him, what kind of good role do you think he played and that you wanted him to play
Mm.
in your list, and maybe what overall general role do you think Yoda is the best at?
Yeah, I definitely yeah. So Mike Berry, his take on Yoda was incredible. Seeing Force guidance used that way, you're right, absolutely. Everyone, myself included, I kind of wrote that force power off, and Mike was running it, and once I saw him using it, um, on the Yoda 3-pip turn in particular, I think that he had the advantage of having Exemplar, which is basically double Exemplar when you have Yoda 3-pip, handing out 2 Surge tokens that the entire army can have access to and are not restricted to using them off the clone sharing rule feels kind of cheaty. And I think that's what he realized, which was load up the board with tokens and maximize. I think there are 2 ways to play Yoda, and I think we had a great weekend to see those two ways being played. I have an aggressive Yoda who wants to get in the lines and is going to swing his lightsaber. Mike has a list that says Yoda is the force guidance extraordinaire, where every single activation was a force guidance. We and you know he did attack in his game in the finals. He did actually use force blast to kill Asajj, if I remember right. Um, it's not that he won't attack with Yoda. It's just that he's very much depending on his gun line to carry, but he's using Yoda as the token battery. He's using him as the positioning battery because guidancing ARC troopers feels really good. Um, and I think that he definitely showed that. Specifically for force guidance, which is the force upgrade, not guidance on Yoda's card. Uh, Force guidance, giving 2 surges, again, I think that's really innovative of him, and I think that he probably was looking at, well, hey, I don't he pro I'm not, I don't wanna put words in his mouth, but I think he probably looked at it and was thinking, "I don't really want another dodge," right? And, and a lot of people would put reflexes there, maybe saber throw, when you're because his list was 800, so he had to run a 5 cost force power there. But then I think he realized, um, man, having surging red saves across your whole army every single turn for all 6 turns is pretty good. So I like that. So to answer the question though about like the ways to play Yoda, there's definitely 2 strategies. I love burst of speed on Yoda. Burst of speed on the 2 pip in particular to jump in from very far away, and then 3 pip gives you, you get an immobilized, but then you become speed 3 again. So then really you're speed 2. So you're just like any other Jedi. Um, it's quite good. Unfortunately, my Yoda did not get to show that off on stream when he got killed by Bosk. uh, it was my mistake. I did not measure the distance between Bosk and him. I should have. I took it for granted. I thought his Bosk was hunting Chewbacca. He saw an opportunity to run into melee and he took it, and he got it. So kudos to my opponent for that. But in my first and my third game, Yoda deleted probably, I would say, about 400 points by himself in game one and game three, because of the 2 pip 1 pip. Um, if you're going super aggressive, I'm a big fan of Yoda 3. Get some tokens, get your Chewie into a good position. Chewbacca 2 pip, get him in the lines, and then you can run the 2-1 combo, and then go back to the 2. So you basically go, it's Yoda 3, Chewie 2, and then it's 2-1-2 on Yoda. So you have relentless, then charge, and then relentless again. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
And if you're handing the relentless to Chewbacca as well, he's not he's nothing to sneeze at. Lethal 1 on 4 red. So giving them out maneuver as well is quite good. So that was what I did in both game 1 and 3. I was doing the fairly um, uh, I was prioritizing aggression. Um, I did mention that in game 3 though against Mike, I did run the Yoda 1. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, yes. In games 2 and 3, I did run the Yoda 1 pip first, because we were playing Recover the Supplies in those games. It was in the hostage exchange game where I did that against my first opponent. Yeah, going aggressive against Empire with Yoda is always a risk, but I saw that he was playing double bounty, and I knew that I needed to kill one quickly, or else the volley back and forth. It's really bad on hostage, right? They score 1 bounty, and the whole game can just be like, well, you win the tiebreaker. So I knew I needed to kill, and so that's why I played so aggressively.
Yeah, I was always curious as to like how to play Yoda because I think he is one of the best units in the game. Period, objective wise, and he can do
Yeah,
so
Yoda
much.
Chewbacca more specifically. I think that to go back to that point. So when you're playing an aggressive Yoda with like Chewbacca, you're always playing towards the objective. If you're playing the gunline version, I mean, obviously it's an objective game. You're always playing the objective, but you don't have the Chewbacca 2 pip to make cute plays. So I think that the gunline is more of an attrition list, and it plays lists like I think Mike Berry's played like Sabotage the Vaps and some of those like more traditional things. Intercept, probably Key. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but it's more of a gunline approach. Mine is all of the, you know, it's bombing run, it's hostage, it's Key, and recover the supplies. Like I want to be able to make plays off of my command cards.
Yeah,
So I
those.
think those are the 2 different ways you're going to play Yoda at this stage.
Okay. Yeah, I think he just kind of stays back with the gun line and isn't the best, but that Yoda Chewie, I feel like just objective wise, like you said, is that's the way to get some plays in and get things done. And then so do you when you're making the list, do you
hmm
usually put Yoda and then Chewie and then fill the rest in, or are you looking for something to support like Yoda and Chewie, or you look like what was your main thought process when you were testing out stuff? Like, what kind of things did you really want to focus on the most?
For Wookiee defenders, I put Yoda and Chewbacca in right away, and I kitted them in the aggressive stance. The aggressive being the burst of speed with push and barrier, to protect Chewbacca on the way in. So that they don't want to shoot Chewbacca because you got barrier. They don't want to shoot Yoda because you have protector and guardian. Right? That's pretty standard. Burst of speed also allows you to do some cute things, especially if you think your opponent is going to. There's some cute things that you can do with bursts of speed, that I don't think that everybody's aware of, but like giving yourself an immobilized token can make you immune to force push. So um there's different little things that you might do there where if you're thinking that your opponent is going to try to do something with your Yoda and you want to anchor him somewhere, like you can actually burst the speed when you don't need it and give yourself the immobilized token, locking yourself in engagements with units and things. Um, it's kind of niche. It didn't come up in my games this weekend, but I really like burst because you can use it both for maneuverability or anti-maneuverability in that regard. Um, and of course, with Chewbacca, if you have an immobilized token and you play Chewbacca's 2-pip, well, he piggybacks anyway. So it basically gets around the idea that, like, yeah, I'm immobilized, but I'm following Chewbacca. So that's the other reason why I like Burst of Speed with Chewbacca. If I'm not playing Chewbacca, um, yeah, I say I'm 50-50 on whether or not I run Burst. Um, but yeah, so to when I fill out the list, I filled it out exactly that. I filled out Chewbacca, I filled out Yoda, um, and then I started filling in the Wookiees, the minimum requirement of the 3 core, and then I was a big question mark. I really wanted to play Shield Wookiees. I really, 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 really like them. The double red, the chance for armor and melee can be cute. Um, the problem that I found was 26 points is really hard to find in this list. It's there's just no other way to say it. It's really hard to find. So I was pretty certain that tenacity would be a nice backup, and the question then became for me, how many Wookiees? So if I sent you the list that I had, but there's an alternative version which is not all that much different that I had play tested, and it just runs instead of the 2 flutters, it just runs 2 more Wookiees. Um, one of them has to be without tenacity though, and it works. But I found that in playing testing against a friend of mine that if they have enough range 4, it's a nightmare. It's and the fluttercrafts were the answer. I was always able to, oh, you have a range 4 guns, you want to have a range 4 poke gun line. Well, guess what? My fluttercrafts can engage you from outside of range 4, hit you, pierce, and get back to safety so that you need to be moving and shooting, and then they can work their way up. And also I think the when I was building the list, I was really, really hoping to be able to run a very annoying objective list, and I really wanted to have bombing run in there. Um, and I did not feel it was very good with the Wookiees. All 6 when it was running 6 Wookiees.
Okay, yeah, because I was gonna
So
say
yeah,
that Fluttercraft for bombing run is definitely gonna be amazing, and then guidance with any of the Wookiees, and if a Wookiee gets shot down, or if a miniature gets shot down, you could do a free speed 1 move, which just moves the
yeah.
objective a little bit closer to their enemy deployment zone.
And in a couple of my testing games, the ability to have them withdraw, shoot my Wookiee, I lose a model, and then I go hide in melee again was incredible. Because I mean, if you get unlucky, maybe you lose more than 1 model, and while you don't charge off that speed 1 move, putting them back into the melee is enough. Because it keeps them from being able to drill into the same unit over and over and over. So the speed 1 move I think is pretty critical. Um, I I'll be the first one to admit though that is hard to remember. I know that I forgot it probably at least 3 or 4 times throughout the weekend. But the couple times that I did remember it, it was amazing. So I feel like if I could just remember it more, it would be even better.
Oh yeah, because I mean, with these new rules coming out, just like just before the Crucible event, basically. You're still trying to play test it and remember it, and there's so many things that you're trying to remember with like Yoda and Chewie and the Battle Force rules, and with what you're trying to do on the field. There's so much going on. But are you planning on playing this one again? I know you said you're probably going to a tournament in Jacksonville
Hmm.
that Michael Berry is putting on, and
Austin Miller.
Austin Miller. Sorry.
Austin Miller.
That
Yep,
Austin
from
Miller's going to
Fifth
be putting
Trooper.
on. And you're probably going to be running the Wookiee Force again. Um,
Yeah, I'm about 80% sure of that if I don't run that, I mean, it's still gonna be Yoda. but but yeah, I wanna I'm still innovating on it a little bit. And we'll see. I wanna find it. I have 3 Fluttercrafts. I want to see if I can find a good list with 3 of them. Unfortunately, that means I have to lose the arc, so that feels a little bad. But having 3 Fluttercrafts definitely makes some exciting matches against brings open some new possibilities for objective play. So, but yeah, I'm pretty sold that I'm gonna keep innovating on this list. It's a lot of fun.
yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Just, if you're going to probably stick to it for a little while, keep getting more used to it, and see how well it goes and how far it can push.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, definitely.
but yeah, man, that's really all the questions I have. You've explained a lot, and I know you were talking. I know, kind of like before we started, you had mentioned being in Orlando, being with around Disney, and getting to have a ton of fun while you were there, and just having a ton of Star Wars experience was a heck of a good time. But
Absolutely. Yeah, and getting to meet so many new people. I got to meet uh your one and only what was it?
Graham,
Grammy?
yep, Graham,
Yeah, Graham. Sorry. I
Canadian
yeah,
Bear,
I got Canadian Bear. Thank you. Yes,
yeah.
I was like it's thank you. Yes, I got to meet him, and it was a pleasure to meet him. And he I got to see his list, and I was like, oh man, he's using shooting Wookiees. He's doing it. More bold than I am, I think, even though I was doing something experimental. But I respect I respect that he was stayed true to the Kashyyyk, and keeps his Wookiees and Yoda in the list. And it was cool to talk with him, and I got to meet a lot of cool new people as well. And like I said, shout outs to Mike, who my game 3 opponent, and you know and and everybody that was there. I mean, the Legion community is really, like, honestly, like one of the best wargaming communities. Like I swear, all of my all the people that I met through the game are constantly staying in touch. We're always getting games. We're always so pleasant, um, and that's a good thing to see.
Yeah, I agree. That's awesome to hear that the sportsmanship in this game is unlike any other wargaming game because people are just. I think it's Star Wars. Like the fact that it's just brought everybody together and everyone is so excited about it and happy to see all these different Star Wars lists and whatnot. It's just cool. I'm glad that you had a good time. That you're staying in contact with all of them too, because I'm sure that kind of circle could help you at other lists with other lists at other tournaments as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I don't do it alone. I always reach out to the people that I play with, and I get their feedback. I'm like, hey, I'm cooking up something. What do you think? Does this look viable? Should I run this? Should I test it? I get feedback, and that's I so I always encourage everybody. When you have a list, throw it out there to crowdsource it. You don't have to take every piece of advice that you get, but hearing these other alternative opinions and stuff are really really interesting. And I think that that's why my list got to be so fine tuned, was because all the little nitpicky things that people were mentioning.
Right, and you remembered how to pilot it really well too. Because I mean, anyone could probably put a list together, but remembering the speed one moves, or remembering that you can guidance twice with the one pip, and how to guidance, or what
Hmm.
units to guidance, like your priorities, figuring out
Yes,
what's the most important. Like piloting is the biggest thing. Is like people might create like a list you would never expect could win, but the way that people pilot it can make it just go that extra mile.
absolutely. Yes, I have had some incredible nail biters or losses to lists that I just on paper they don't look like they work at all until you see like, oh, he's doing what? You can do this, and then you can do that, and or you're going to deploy over here with, it just all these little crazy combos that people come up with. They're fascinating, and that's why I love showing up to these tournaments and getting to meet new players and new people with different ways that they like to play.
For sure. Well, yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this interview and tell everybody about how awesome your Yoda Chewie Wookiee Defender list was. Hopefully, we keep seeing more like it, and then I want to keep seeing you, rise to the top with it because the
Thank
way
you.
that you play Yoda is awesome, and the way that you have created this list to do certain maneuvers and cute little things like that. It's just so cool and crazy to see that these units are possible, or these things are possible with these units.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, is there anything left that you've got to say to anything else, or anything else you want to add?
Uh, no, just shout out to the Jacksonville community. You guys are great, and I'll see you on Thursday night.
Yeah. Well, thanks for stopping by, man. I really appreciate it, and I think we'll just end it here.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching.